African Development Bank to launch African Economic Outlook 2020 supplement. Foreign reserves fall by $373.23 million in June. Forex shortage to hit $5 billion in Nigerian banks. Plus, federal government borrows 1.54 trillion naira through bond auctions in the first half of 2020. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Nigerian banks' foreign currency funding gap will rise to $5 billion over the current low oil prices, volatile foreign inflows, and lower remittances amid coronavirus pandemic. Moody, in its July 2020 report, said the challenges were threatening to reveal the foreign currency liquidity pressures that blighted Nigerian banks during a previous oil crisis in 2016 to 2017. The report also added that lower dollar inflows at a time when foreign currency borrowing will likely be more expensive for Nigerian banks will strain their foreign currency funding despite substantial improvements compared to 2016. While dollar shortages will intensify over the next 12 to 18 months if low oil prices persist, rekindling the foreign currency liquidity crisis that led to severe dollar rationing during the last oil price crash in 2015 to 2017. Meanwhile, latest figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria reveals that the country's foreign reserves fell by $373.23 million from $36.57 billion on June 1st to $36.2 billion on June 29th. According to the CBN, the reserves maintained a steady rise at a level of $33.52 billion as of April 30th, before commencing its downward trend in June. The reserves had hit a high of $45.17 billion on June 11, 2019, but lost $11 billion to close at $33.89 billion as of April 28, 2020. Dollar in a narrow range as U.S. virus cases grow. Let's now see how the Naira is exchanging for other international currencies. The federal government in the first half of 2020 borrowed 1.54 trillion naira from domestic investors through bond auctions conducted by the Debt Management Office. These include 1.37 trillion naira borrowed through the monthly FGN bond auctions from January to June, 2.27 billion naira borrowed through the monthly FGN savings bonds from January to March, and 162.55 billion naira borrowed through the Sukuk bond auction held in June. The impact of the coronavirus pandemic on small business owners is staggering and substantial. Business Express caught up with a car wash operator who expresses the pain and uncertainty the pandemic has brought on his business. Muplang Dakog on Surviving COVID-19 segment reports that Anthony Oyekachi had to take drastic steps to continue operating.
With the lockdown and partial opening of offices and businesses as a result of COVID-19, car owners in Nigeria now either wash their cars themselves or employ the services of their children or other staff at home. This has in turn cut down on the number of people who visit car wash points to wash their cars. Anthony Oyekachi runs a car wash business in Abuja.
Customers are not turning up to wash their cars like before. Some they will wash it by themselves because of the same lockdown. The money is not flowing. Business are not like before, so they will just wash it anyhow. They will come, please, I have 200. Can you wash my body? They are begging.
To cope with the situation, Anthony says he painfully had to dismiss some of his staff because business has slowed while a few workers left on their own volition.
Before, we have a lot of boys, more than 12, in this car wash. But as you can see, some people that manage to stay, they are not up to 7. So we are coping now. This time now, if you manage to wash 10 cars, 15 cars, before we used to wash like 40, 50. We are making a good money here. But now, things are not like before.
How did he cope during the total lockdown?
Before this opening of market for 3 times in a week, honestly, it wasn't easy. Thank God I keep some things for myself. So I was managing with my families. We are with my family. We be eating 3 times then. But during that lockdown, my sister, if we eat once, we manage others with water.
Car washing machine makes the business easier, faster and more lucrative. But Anthony says sometimes he is forced to do without the car washing machine as fewer customers mean less income and less money to fuel the generator.
For some months now, we've been facing unprecedented stay-home orders that have tragically decimated some industries and tested the resolve of others. This is certainly a before and after moment in the history of the economy and the digital transformation. Even when the COVID-19 outbreak is contained, it's unlikely things will return to normal. Instead, we are seeing the forced acceleration of previously slow-moving trends that are likely to shape the future for the long haul. These and more will be the focus of the program when we return after this break.
Let me assure Nigerians that all COVID-19 intervention funds are safe in the Treasury single account and that government is still open to donations in this regard. Government has opened special accounts with 5 commercial banks which are directly linked to the Treasury single account. Donated funds are safe in the Central Bank of Nigeria. For verifiable information about the funds and other financial obligations of the federal government, please contact us directly at the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. The account details for the donations are as follows.
As the federal government continues to ease the lockdown, what is the way forward for businesses? For a deeper look at this, I have in the studio with me a business consultant and social entrepreneur, Kate Pam. Kate, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Globally, businesses are struggling to survive the COVID-19. It's a global issue. Nigeria is not left out of it. Can you paint a picture of the Nigerian situation?
Oh, wow. The Nigerian situation is not any different from what is going on in the world. The only thing is the absence of data where you can have proper statistics on what is going on, given that we don't have synchronized systems. So you don't get the actual picture, but like you talked about the car wash man,
Yes.
you know,
Who is struggling?
who
to
is
survive.
struggling. What about the hairdresser? What about the basically small business owners constitute about 90% of businesses in the country. So you can imagine the impact on the population with the no movement, so there's no transportation, there's no business going on, yet there are overheads. Like my hairdresser was saying to me that he has paid his rent since December. He has not had any business. This is July, and he doesn't know how he's going to pay his next rent that is due because there's no business going on.
Okay, talking about no business. Before now, it was complete lockdown.
Yes.
Your hairdresser could not go out for business. You could not step out to go make your hair. Same with the car wash and other smaller businesses. But now, with the easing of the lockdown, they are stepping out. What direction should the businesses go now?
But the easing of the lockdown is not going back to things as they were. There's a new normal. There's social distancing. I'm in the studio wearing a mask. So if you're going, I don't know if you let your barber touch your hair with a clipper that you would. Everybody's being careful now. So even the customers are apprehensive about going out to get, so it requires some time. Businesses need time to recover because there's a huge dent in business operations, in cash flows, in revenues for a lot of small business owners, ourselves inclusive.
Trust Nigerians. There is always a way to survive. It's about survival. While during this lockdown, some other businesses, smaller businesses, tried to survive, and the virtual space was available for them. How is that helping businesses?
I think Nigeria is gradually adjusting to that because as a training and consulting business, we were also significantly affected by the pandemic in that all our training programs were cancelled. We had a year full of training programs. We have an empty facility that we haven't used for months. But taking advantage of the virtual space, we've been able to host a series of events. However, the IT infrastructure in this country poses a lot of challenges because there's always breaks in transmission. And then beyond that, also the cost of doing that, because as an SME, the cheapest package that you will get for bandwidth that will meet the present day requirements, IT requirements for business would be maybe something around 50,000 naira to get that. So once you're looking upwards of that, that means that just for IT alone, not to mention other overheads that you would incur for running your business. See, so it's presenting new sets of overheads, and I don't know whether it's even captured in some of the policies that cover these SMEs as yet.
Okay, now with the availability of the market space being virtual, do you think Nigerians, the small businesses, have been able to really utilize it as it should? How has the interface been? Is it progressive?
I think it is. There are market spaces, there are a lot of social media groups, and people are able to sell their products. But e-commerce also relies on the supply chain infrastructure to be able to meet its demands, because if you order for something online, you have to wait for it to get to you, either shipped, internationally or locally. And so when there's no movement, it has its own challenges, and the increase in fuel price and all that, the cost of doing those things have even gone up. So there's a challenge there. There are opportunities, no doubt, but it comes with its challenges. I guess as we get along, as we understand the situation, as we adapt to the new normal, then businesses will be able to find what works best for them.
Okay, in search for what works best for them, there is also the fear, internet fraud. What's the security level, and how can their confidence be built for them to venture into such?
You know, it's one of the conversations. I host a weekly program, webinar on Tuesday afternoons at 12 noon, and we look at some of these issues, and digital security is one of the things that we'll look at, because even my sister was defrauded by an internet fraudster from Instagram. Wow. So in that regard, I think first of all there's need for a lot of awareness, because people are not yet, it's still new, people are going digital, so awareness of IT security is very critical. The government and even the business owners themselves need to educate themselves on ways to protect themselves and their businesses from these internet scammers.
Let's look at the capital base of SMEs coming to financing. Before now, commercial banks will give you some loan with high interest, as much as 14%. Government came with some intervention. We have 9%. Then, thanks to COVID-19, interventions from CBN, particularly the 50 billion COVID-19 intervention fund, the interest rate is as low as 5%. How far can this go in helping businesses?
I think it's a very fantastic effort by the government to do that. But then again, how is the government going to account? Because on the CBN database, they say they have about 41 million small businesses. So 200 million Nigerians, 41 million registered. Clearly, there's some gap if 90% of businesses in Nigeria. So, I mean, there are still gaps that need to be filled. A lot of these people probably, I don't know if the interview that that Muplang had, your correspondent Muplang had, asked the car wash man if he was aware of the CBN intervention, because my hairdresser, my nail salon person, the other service providers, small service providers are not even aware of the CBN intervention, or even if they are, they don't know that what they need to do to prepare themselves adequately for that.
Talking about preparation, adequate preparation for that, I've seen some of the beneficiaries, I've met some of them. Some are households that have been hit by the impact of the COVID-19. Some are small businesses. A lot of people are accessing this money. I want to believe there are some who don't know how to invest this money properly, particularly households that want to go into business to support what they are already doing. What, in your words, should they do? What kind of businesses thrive at this time, particularly using the virtual space?
There are several businesses that are doing well, businesses that are able to utilize the digital space well. So whatever it is that you're selling, if you can sell online, you can reach a wider market, right? But that being said, you know, with the CBN intervention and with the household funding, a lot of people, it's capped at 2.5 million. I'm not sure how much of that, you know, people would use to survive, first of all, before going into those
smaller businesses.
Those smaller businesses.
Yes, so I agree. That's much capital. If you expect that 2.5, 500,000, 200,000 can go a long way.
Of course, absolutely, no doubt it will go a long way to help people. But making that transition actually requires a lot of awareness, a lot of training for the entrepreneurs themselves. So more than anything, even though when the economy goes down, a lot of training budgets, that's when trainings are. But this is the time that people need education. They need education on where the world is going in terms of artificial intelligence, the digital space, how to position their business for the eventuality of something like this happening in the future. So for the small businesses, I think this is the time to gain as much knowledge as you can, which is why we started the Spotlight series, because we wanted to hear from different sectors. The week before, last week, we talked about design thinking, problem solving. How can you look at the best approach to solve problems using the design thinking methodology.
Solving problem,
Yes.
it's knowledge base. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Kate Palm, for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.
The African Development Bank says it will launch its African Economic Outlook 2020 supplement on Tuesday, July 7th through a live Zoom event. The supplement revises the growth projections and outlook for Africa for 2020 and 2021 and highlights the impact of COVID-19 on Africa's socio-economic landscape. The economic outlook will also recommend workable policy responses to safely reopen economies and accelerate growth recovery. AFDB says the supplement will be the first ever published in the bank's 19-year history of the African Economic Outlook. Gold was flat, trading in a narrow $4 range on Friday as worries over surging coronavirus cases globally and lingering trade tensions between the United States and China overshadowed strong U.S. jobs data. Crude prices fell on Friday as the resurgence of the coronavirus globally and in the United States, the world's largest oil consumer, dimmed the prospect of fuel demand recovery. Brent crude futures were down 37% at $42.77 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 34 cents to $40.31 a barrel. Both benchmarks rose more than 2% on Thursday, buoyed by stronger than expected U.S. jobs data and a fall in U.S. crude inventories. For the week, Brent is up 4.3% and WTI is up 5.6%. Stocks in Asia Pacific rose in Friday morning trade as positive economic data raised optimism over the prospects of an economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. Details with Bosede Abel.
As the world continues to battle with the containment of coronavirus pandemic, global stock markets continue to strive. In early trading of 3rd July, European stocks were muted following upbeat economic data out of the US and China, while a spike in US coronavirus infections tempered optimism. Stocks in Asia rose as positive economic data raised optimism over the prospect of an economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. Shanghai Composite surging 2.01% to 3,152.81. Hang Seng Index was 0.99% higher as of its final hour of trading, and the Nikkei also added 0.72% to close at 22,306.48. According to the U.S. Labor Department, the U.S. non-farm payroll surged by 4.8 million in June. The figure smashed expectations by economist survey by Dow Jones of a 2.9 million increase in jobs creation. The unemployment rate dropped to 11.1% lower than the 12.4% forecast by economist survey by Dow Jones. Stocks in Africa were mixed, with Tunisia's Tunidex, South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Nairobi's All-Share posting gains, while Ghana's GSE Composite and Namibia's overall index were negative.
On the stock exchange, the BS continued their hold as ASI share index depreciated by 0.16% to close 24,336.12 basis points, with market capitalization at 12.6 trillion naira. A total of 144.3 million shares valued at 1.5 billion in 3,993 deals exchanged hands on the floor of the exchange. Guarantee Bank, Zenith, Transcorp were the most sought after, while the gainers were led by Zenith Bank, Guarantee, and Ikeja Hotel, while Nigerian breweries, Julius Berger and the UAC PLC were the top decliners. This is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget you can access this and all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is at NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback. Do join us again on Monday for another package. As we continue the fight against COVID-19, remember to keep social distance while lockdown is gradually easing, and always wash your hands with soap under running water frequently. Stay safe. I am Benny Adams. Business Express returns on Monday.